Should I buy a home for my college student? What are the pros? What are the risks? And how do I finance it? I want to break this down for you because I get that question all the time, not just as a top originator for the last 20 years, but as a mom of 3 21-year-olds who bought their first home. While in college, dorm rent just hit, on average, nationwide, $1,200 a month. That's $57,000 over a 4-year period, and it literally disappears the day your kid graduates. But what if instead that same money goes towards building equity, cash flow, and setting up your child's financial future? Did you know that 30% of college students live off of campus? And on average, that college rent is $1,000 to $1,400 a month? And parent-owned housing in college towns, on average, appreciates 5 to 8% annually. Now, this is the power of turning an expense into an asset. So I want to talk about this. How do we build wealth while they study? How do we set them up for success? I've seen it firsthand. My kids, all 3 of them, rented to roommates, and they lived for free. They were able to cover their mortgage with their roommates, living in a home that they owned for free. It appreciated in college towns where there was limited supply and absolutely built-in demand. Those roommates were paying, depending on the college town, anywhere between $750 to $1,000 a room. They also got the ability to start hedging tax write-offs, to start doing itemized deductions, to start looking at the details of mortgage interest and depreciation. This is where we as parents get to lean in and help teach our children financial literacy, where we get to include them on the loan and on the title, where they get to start learning how to build credit, how to pay bills, and how to have responsibility. As a parent, it was one of the coolest moments where my kids would come back home and want to lay out their budget to pay their bills. They were learning adulting while it was still safe. Then, as they aged out of college, which all 3 have now, they've kept all of those homes as rentals. They have the option to sell it with gains, but I'll tell you, all 3 have been phenomenal homes for continuing to appreciate, and by renting out by the room, they've been absolutely able to cash flow. They're also able, if they wanted to convert it to a short-term rental. What if those college towns were also a destination town? That would be a great opportunity to rent to parents coming into college or to those destinations. It's all about options. Here's some cons, though, because there are downsides, and I'd be remiss if I didn't cover that. Because now that child and you, as the adult, is a landlord. You have to deal with landlord stuff. You have to deal with maintenance and roommate drama, and there was plenty of it. You have to deal with the wear and tear of college students living in that home. They aren't 2 adults who are gone most of the time at work. These are college students who are at home a lot and throwing parties. You also want to think about how you're going to finance that property. Are you going to do it as your second home, as the parent's second home? Now, you could do that if it's in a destination town, or if you're helping your child, you can buy a home for a child as a second home per Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. That's a phenomenal advantage because it allows you to put as little as 10% down. As an investment property, it's 15 to 25% down, depending on your financing structure. You can also look at supporting your kid buying it as a primary home. So you have to really look at all of your options to determine what are my financing limits versus what are my opportunities. You also want to look at market risk. College enrollment drops or oversupply can impact resale or rentability. I'm seeing, especially even here locally, that there's a lot of colleges who are building more dorms and more off-campus living for their students. As a college procures more college living, you're going to find that your rental might have not as much need or demand. Now, when you're talking about financing a college home for your kiddo, I want you to look at all your options and talk to a lender who's gone down this path, or at least has experience doing it, because the options of doing it as a second home an investment property or as a co-signing property are specific, and there are pros and cons to each. Now, as a second home, you're looking at the same interest rate as an investment property. So typically an investment is going to require 15 to 25% down, a second home 10% down. If you're looking at putting less than 20% down, you have mortgage insurance. Those interest rates are going to be a little bit higher, or they're going to cost you more in discount points to drop that rate down. The most optimal situation is if you can co-sign for your kiddo. Now, that's going to require that your child have a credit score, and you're going to want to pre-plan for that. That's a conversation I have often as well. Start planning when your kid's 16 or 18 if you're going to hopefully buy that kid a home when they're 21. Now, co-signing and you being as a parent a non-occupant is a huge advantage because you get those primary home interest rates and you can put as little as 5% down. There are options for you to help fund this. You can use equity from your current home by tapping into it with a HELOC or a cash out refinance. You also can help them set up lease agreements. So this allows them to be more strategic, more hands-on, and to be learning forward how to manage those disagreements or those contracts. And then one other strategic move might be looking at putting this in a family LLC or a trust for protection. Remember, you're inviting other people, non-family members, to live in that house with your kiddo. If something should happen where somebody gets hurt, you want to make sure that you've taken the steps to protect yourself before that happens. To answer the question, should you buy a home for your college student? If you've got the down payment, if you've got a long-term plan, and a kid who's ready for some responsibility, the answer is a hands-down yes. But do it with strategy. Make sure that this is a town that child might be fully engaged in after living, or it might be a really good rental after they move out of it. Or maybe you might turn it into a second home that you get to vacation in later. This is how you turn college costs into wealth. I mean, I've helped dozens of parents do it, and you can too. Do me a favor and DM me or drop a comment if you want help building your plan.